On April 19th, 2009, a landmark Tetris achievement was captured on video. This was the day when Harry Hong recorded the first ever verified game of NES Tetris being played to its maximum limit, 999,999, known as a max out. 20 years after the game's release, this feat sparked a resurgence in the competitive community, one which persists to this day. In the past 2 years, top players have been fighting to reach yet another difficult benchmark, only this one spawned from a different quest, one to bypass the cap score that allowed for a max out to be possible in the first place. To uncap the 6-digit score, in 2015 World Championships competitor Josh Tolles created a Game Genie code to find a workaround. The code replaced the first digit with a letter to represent scores above 1 million, letting a new race for the score record begin. This code had a quirk though, being that the score would revert back to 1 million points at a mark of over 1.6 million, performing a score overflow. At the time that this code was invented, this wasn't a problem, since scores of that caliber were seen to be entirely impossible. Why that's the case requires us to take a look at how scoring in NES Tetris operates. Before we get into that, I'm getting close to 10,000 subscribers, so if you enjoy this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. The highest level a player can start on is level 19, where pieces fall to the bottom of the screen every 2/3 of a second. The move of a Tetris, which can only be achieved with a long bar, ends up rewarding by far the most points compared to any other line clear option. From here, the strategy appears simple. Play as efficiently as possible and marathon the game out, but the developers considered this, and so they implemented both a shift in levels and a speed change. At 140 lines on a level 19 start, the game jumps up to level 20, but because the pieces are falling at 1 row every 2 frames, the subsequent speed jump doesn't happen here, but instead 10 levels later, where pieces fall from the top to the bottom at a rate of once every 1/3 of a second. This brick wall makes scoring much after level 29 with conventional piece movement nigh impossible. In this configuration, this occurs at 230 lines, and if a player were to score with 100% efficiency up until level 29, they would still fall short of the score needed for a rollover, necessitating additional points. This is also an extreme example, as for most high-scoring games, level 18 is used instead of 19 due to its tamer initial speed and similar scoring opportunity, and 100% efficiency isn't viable due to the game's RNG and a limited piece preview. For a 1.6 to be possible, playing after level 29 was needed, but a method to move pieces faster was required if this was to be accomplished. With players nearing the limits of pre-29 efficiency, several concepts for maximum piece movement were attempted, with rolling being the solution that was found. This concept changed the landscape of NES Tetris forever. It is featured in basically every video on this channel, but to summarize, the rapid button presses of this technique gave way for survival past level 29, making it commonplace. At maximum speed, this can allow for piece movement of 30 times per second, capped by the 60 FPS that NES Tetris runs on. Translated to a level 29 game of Tetris, 30Hz means that a long bar can get over 10 units on the left and 12 on the right, which unlocks an entirely new realm of gameplay for top competitors. It wasn't long after this was brought to light that world records would be set with rolling, and on September 14th of 2021, history would be made. Hydrant would be the first to use rolling to get a 1.6 million, with a heavy portion of this coming from the kill screen, with him rolling over the score counter all the way on level 39. This further contributed to rolling's usage in the scene, and from here the game would never be the same. The world record today is a staggering 3.7 million, proving that rolling could effectively trivialize the kill screen, a phase in the game that was nothing more than a game ender a few years back. So, when this game was posted to the Classic Tetris Monthly Discord on June 25th of this year, it might have been a shock that this was a revolutionary record in its own right. The reason for this becomes evident when taking a closer look at the playstyle that made this game possible in the first place. Moja was not using the new rolling technique, but instead was manually pressing the D-pad to move pieces. This falls under the umbrella of hypertapping, a technique that's been around for decades but fell out of fashion in the past year due to rolling's superior abilities. Moja throws in an extra technique that makes it a step up from conventional tapping, the hyper quick tap, where extra button presses are punched in between the main taps. I analyzed Moja's unique addition a few months back, when rolling was just becoming the dominant force that we know today. Back then, he claimed that he wanted to stick with this form of tapping, citing that it's fast enough to still have major potential. And in the months to follow, his personal best only continued to increase, getting incredibly close to a 1.6 with tapping. Only one other player had a tap 1.5, so Moja was in unique territory, and with the game on June 25th, we'd see Moja make history. Moja entered the kill screen at level 29 with a relatively low score, just above a max out. From here, we'd begin to see his kill screen strategies take shape. With tapping over 20 Hz, he had much more creative freedom in how he built his stack, but still not as much as rollers. Left taps were especially risky, as one hung piece could create a barrier too high to navigate. Moja built out the left when he could, using material to burn in either the center or the right. This lineout strategy that would typically negate pace was actually the correct move here, as going for Tetrises on the kill screen ends up being incredibly risky. This didn't deter him from going for Tetrises when he saw the opportunities though, as we'd see later in the run. Moja navigated several high boards, making smart burns and holding out for the correct pieces to keep his run going past 1.3 million. Moja began to go all out near level 47, building out his left with several squares, burning in the middle and getting the column 3 Tetris, which was worth 58,000. He wasn't done there either, setting up and getting a second Tetris for the first ever rollover with tapping. He kept the run going for a few levels, getting one more Tetris into level 52 before his board fell into disarray. The misdrop would do him in, but not before he absolutely smashed the Hypertapping world record by over 200,000 points. Despite the recent onslaught of rolling dominance, Moja's score ranks as 9th all time, a statement gained nearly a year after rollers began to take over the scene. From here, questions arise, mainly about the viability of the hyper quick tap in major competitive play. Even if it's just a few hertz difference, the discrepancies between rolling and the hyper quick tap pile up past level 29, with safe and consistent stacking severely limited. A 5 tap to the left 6 high is at best a 20 Hz move, and while Moja can reach 25 Hz speeds at his absolute limit, it's not consistent and doesn't translate well to the environment of a competitive game. Moja's stacking is continuing to improve as he learns the constraints of the hyper quick tap, and to this day he remains a regular in the classic Tetris monthly Masters event. Even if Moja remains as just a singular force in the hypertapping scene, his back and forth battles with ever improving rolling players will likely continue into the foreseeable future. Check out Moja's YouTube channel in the description. I especially recommend watching his Tap World Record game if you haven't already. Also, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I make tons of Tetris videos just like this one, and I appreciate all the support. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.